Good morning, reconcilers. Good morning, Remerge. I hope everyone is having a great week. I am Lavonya Jones, your lead facilitator for the community of reconcilers. And this morning, I have a great sister in the faith, Patrices Meadows. So excited to have you with us today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for agreeing to be here. So I am going to read her bio and then I'm going to give my personal spiel about Patrice because
Oh,
I just
Lord.
absolutely love her. So Patrice Meadows is a veteran educator with over 13 years of experience. After graduating from North Carolina State University with a bachelor's in biology, she joined Teach for America and relocated to Atlanta. She began her teaching career in Southwest Atlanta, shout out to the SWATs, teaching 11th and 12th grade chemistry. Since then, she has taught 5th through 12th grades at traditional and charter schools in Atlanta Public Schools and DeKalb County Schools. Most recently, she served as the assistant principal at DeKalb Path Academy, a high-performing charter school and the 2018 Georgia Charter School of the Year. Her most notable achievements include developing a data-driven culture, using national norm reference assessments, starting the new teacher support program, and building community engagement through mentoring and volunteering. In 2010, she earned a master's degree in science education, and in 2016, earned her specialist degree in educational leadership, both from Georgia State University. She now presents to teachers and school leaders at educational conferences around the country, including the Georgia Charter School Association Conference and Georgia Teacher Alternative Preparation Program, New Teacher Symposium. She is the lead founder of Atlanta Smart Academy, a charter school with a mission to use science, math, and the arts to build students into innovative solutionists, one of my favorite words. The vision of the school is to be a conduit from elementary years to high school where students are equipped with the critical thinking skills to thrive in a rapidly evolving world. In her off time, she enjoys reading, traveling, and spending time with her family. Now, I will say this, if I have ever in my life met anybody anointed for education, it would be Miss Patrice Meadows.
Oh, wow.
She is absolutely amazing. And just really graced to do this and do it well. And just even seeing the fruit of the educators that you've mentored and how they have excelled has just been a blessing to watch. Because when I first met you, you had literally just started with Teach for America, I think, when
Yeah,
we met. However long ago.
I know. It's like
I
8 years
think,
ago. Oh,
yeah, like 8 years ago. Oh my goodness, it's been so long, and so it's been a pleasure just to see her and her husband's growth of their church, Embassy International. It's just been amazing to watch you all's journey. I'm just so thankful. So tell us a little bit like of how you got into education because that was not your original path.
no, not at all.
So, so how did you get here? How did we end up here?
Yeah, so very interesting story. So, as you mentioned in my bio, I went to North Carolina State University and majored in biology. My plan was to go to med school. I wanted to, I saw some of the disparities in healthcare that people received, and was very passionate about nutrition. So I, had planned to go to med school. I was pre med. And I remember it's so interesting because I work with the Career Services Center on campus, and they had a career fair. So as a freshman in college, I went to this career fair and I saw Teach for America had a table, and I actually filled out the information, even though it was very early on, and said, hey, this, sounds kind of interesting, and then didn't think much else of it. And then fast forward to my senior year in college, and I had already taken the MCAT. I had done several semesters of working in research labs. I had everything that I thought I needed. I applied. There are like 2 rounds of applications that you have to go through for med school. Wow. I completed that first round and was starting on the second round. And, I just felt this compelling. And now I know, of course, Holy Spirit, but I felt this compelling to just stop, to take a minute and ask God, is this the direction that you actually want me to go? Or is this something that I just desire myself? And the answer was a resounding, you need to go teach. I mean, when I said resounding, I mean, I saw it everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't even know, coming up to me and say, "Hey, what are you studying in school? Are you in education?"
Wow.
I had people emailing me, recruiters from Teach for America, which I had submitted 4 years prior, my information, and it was just a resounding, "You need to go teach." I applied to Teach for America at the deadline. Okay, it was the night before the final deadline. I applied reluctantly. I told them that, I was open to going to Atlanta. That was my first choice. And then just a couple months later, I received the news that I would be going to Atlanta, teach at high school. So in a matter of months, just completely shifted my trajectory. So I moved to Atlanta, after graduation, about 2 weeks, and the rest is history. Okay.
Literally.
Got into it and absolutely loved it. I knew it was where God wanted me to be.
Yeah.
Loved the interactions I had with my students, other teachers, and knew that I was going to be in education for a long time.
That's awesome. That is amazing. Now, a lot of people may not know what or who Teach for America is. So could you explain a little bit about who they are and what they do? Because they recruit heavily from the AUC as well. So,
yes, absolutely. Which I found out when I came to Atlanta, how there were so many people from Spelman. And so it was absolutely, just incredible to see. But Teach for America is a national organization whose mission basically is to ensure that all children have access to a high quality education. So they recruit usually college students. They recruit them to go and to teach into urban and rural areas all across the country. I mean, they're everywhere from New Jersey to Hawaii.
wow.
And they commit to a 2-year time period of teaching in the classroom. And they provide training. They help you with to connect with the resources you need to become a certified educator. And what I really love about it is that you become part of a movement. It's not just you committed to 2 years and then you go on about your business. Like, I'm forever a part of and benefiting from being a member of Teach for America. Some, I think about half actually stay in education, which is incredible.
Wow.
We're talking about a field where people are leaving. So about half stay in the classroom. And then the other half are doing some other work that's related. So they may be in school leadership. They may go back into medicine, but now they go in with an understanding of the inequities that exist in education. So now you're creating this complex group of people that understand the challenges of education and can support it from any field, whether it's law, medicine, or staying in education.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's a great program. I've had several friends from Hampton that went into Teach for America, and I believe that even there are Hamptonians that are in leadership with Teach for America. So it's a great program. I've seen my students go through it, and like you said, it is truly a community. Like, y'all stick together.
Absolutely.
So that's good. Now, your journey to educational leadership, I mean, within 8 years, just for you to go from a teacher for Teach for America to getting ready to start your own school. Like, that's not a normal path in education all the time. You do have some leaders that excel quickly, but, it takes a while sometimes for people to shift from teacher to leadership. So when you got into education, what were some of the things that you learned that kind of help you to kind of go up the educational ladder as fast as you have?
Yeah, I had a very interesting, and I'll leave it at interesting, first year in the classroom. So I was fresh out of college, 21, 22 years old. I'm in a new city, had never lived in Atlanta, had only visited, didn't have family and friends here. I just had one cousin that lived here. And it didn't go to school for education, so everything was brand new. And the school where I was placed, and I'm just going to leave it at Southwest Atlanta, they were going through this restructuring. So they were taking this large comprehensive high school and breaking it down into these 4 learning academies, essentially 4 different schools under one roof. And to say that it was a disaster is an understatement. So we survived. My students and I survived it together. I had some wonderful veteran educators across the hall from me that were able to really guide me, help me to stay sane, help me to understand how the system works and how we can survive and do best for our children, given the circumstances that we were in. And just to give a little insight into that, the students didn't have a schedule for the first 3 weeks of school. No schedule. The only thing they knew was a homeroom. So
Wow.
brand new to education. I had students that were 18 and 19 years old, just a few years younger than I was. And the students have no schedule. So
Wow.
we're in there freestyling it. Okay, we're just trying to make it from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. when they get out, and make sure that no one loses their mind, including myself. So I'm thankful for the veteran educators that I was able to lean on. I remember the relationships that I had to build very, very quickly with my students. And I found that they were really in a bad predicament. These weren't bad students. These weren't bad people at all. They were thrown into a situation that they had no control over. Right. They couldn't decide to go to a private school down the street. They had to come to this school. And as educators, it was our responsibility to ensure that they had a high quality school experience, and we let them down. Leadership let them down. The county let them down. So as teachers, we had to improvise. We had to work with what we had. I remember just making up get to know you games, just trying to, there was no direction.
Wow.
Really, I had some incredible students, built some relationships with them that lasted many, many, many years. Some that I still am in contact with now.
Wow.
Very interesting. And it was there that I realized, hey, I think I can do something different with these students. I think I can do a better job of ensuring that students have what they need to be successful.
Yeah. Wow. So with your journey, especially I'm from Southwest Atlanta, so I already know.
You already know.
I already know how we doing the SWATs. I grew up around educators. My godmother is a 40+ year educator that taught in Fulton and APS. Mm-hmm. So I have seen it and I have heard an earful.
Oh yeah, I know you have.
So with what you have seen in education, what are some of the just discrepancies that you've seen, especially in a community like Southwest Atlanta? So for those of you all don't know, just to give a little background, because I'm from Southwest Atlanta. Southwest Atlanta used to be really, when I was growing up in the 80s, it was more of a Black middle class neighborhood. A lot of your educators, politicians, doctors, what we call your Black middle class lived in Southwest Atlanta. And then things shifted. We even moved. I know middle school, we ended up moving to Cobb County. A lot of people moved out. And then they got rid of a lot of the affordable housing, like Bowen Homes, Capitol Homes, all those homes. And so the dynamic of Southwest Atlanta changed. And so unfortunately now is more of an impoverished area. You have a lot of underserved students. There's not even as much economic activity in Southwest Atlanta as there used to be, which has impacted people's employment. Mm-hmm. And the income that they're earning. So with all of those things, what kind of things have you seen in the school system that just really haven't served our students well, that we could do better, especially when serving kids in urban areas like that?
Yeah, and I think I love that you brought up kind of the backstory, because that's important. What we need to understand is that our schools are a microcosm of the communities that they're in and the larger society. So when you think about reasons like your own family, and there may be other reasons, but all parents, I don't care what their educational background is, what their level of income is, all parents want their children to go to good schools, period. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people make it seem like people from a lower income bracket don't care. No, right. They just don't have access to the same resources that other families have. Right. Sometimes they just don't know their options, and sometimes those options don't exist. But families who have the ability to go to an area where there are quality schools, they move. And that has been a trend for many, many years, from people moving from Southwest Atlanta because they want better schools. Yeah. So then, as that begins to happen, now we have businesses that are also moving, because if the families aren't there to spend money, the businesses will go out of business. So they start to move out as well. Mm-hmm. it was interesting, and I know we'll talk about this later, when I started this journey of building a school needs partners. So you need community partners to help support the work that you're doing. But a lot of times what we were looking for doesn't exist in the community. I'm talking to partners and they're saying, okay, are there any corporate offices in that area? Are there any other businesses that we can partner with? And I'm like, within a 5-mile radius of the school, there aren't. So it's you almost have to go back and start to build that, start to convince people that, hey, we're bringing quality schools back to this area. Families can now come back. Businesses, now it's okay for you to come back because now we have a community to support that. So, just thinking about, and what was your original question? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It was like the discrepancy with those changes, the discrepancies that you saw in education even coming up on how schools serve students in those areas. Because like you said, those students, they have a choice. They were thrown into a bad situation. And unfortunately, the leadership didn't serve them well. So what were kind of like in your journey of education, like the patterns that you've seen, like, we got to get this right. We're not doing this right at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at resources that are available at the schools. The way that schools are funded, unfortunately, continues continues this cycle of underfunding for schools that really need it the most. So if there are, if all around the school there are only apartments, that impacts the amount of funding that goes to that school. Right. So now with lower funding, you're not able to bring in all of the programs that you need to help make sure students are successful. You're not able to bring in the staff that you need to run all of these extra things that students really need to thrive. You look at arts. That's something that I'm very passionate about. And you look at the availability of arts in North Atlanta versus arts in South Atlanta. There's a great disparity between that. And we know how access to the arts improves students' overall academic achievement. So funding is huge. There are great disparities in how schools are funded in, low income versus medium or high income areas. Access to resources, quality teachers. I mean, you have to work 3, 4, 5 times as hard in schools that are surrounded or in low income communities versus being in a more affluent area. So then you start to lose high quality teachers. And we know that having great teachers is what really impacts students' overall academic performance the most. So, I could continue to go on, but I think that those are major issues that really stem from how schools are funded.
Yeah, I agree. And I even think back to like when we moved, I'm glad you brought up the point of how the community impacts the educational system. So for my family, we didn't necessarily move because my school was bad. My school was amazing. Shout out to Continental Colony Elementary.
Yeah.
My principal there was amazing. I had wonderful teachers. I was in honors classes. And they just really fueled my passion to learn. I had great teachers. But the community I lived in was rough.
Wow.
It was every weekend we heard shots in the back of the apartment.
Yeah.
People getting robbed at the bus stop, the drugs, and it was because of the community that we moved. But then a lot of families moved because of the community, which then impacted the school. But then even moving to Cobb County, you would think, okay, even that decision was fueled by economics because I'm 10. I ain't had that much say in where we was moving. But, I'm like, Mama, I want to stay in Fulton County. This is where all my friends are. She's like, we about to go to Cobb County because the taxes in Fulton County are too high. The taxes in Cobb County are a little cheaper. So we're going to Cobb County. And so, we moved to Cobb County. But even then, and I think I told this story on the last live that we did, that as a student coming from honors classes and going to a predominantly white community, no matter how hard I tried, I was put in regular classes.
Wow.
And my grades were impacted because I wasn't being challenged at all. And it took a 9th grade math teacher. I kept making A's on her test. And she looked at me and was like, why are you in my class? And I said, because they put me in here.
Yeah.
And she was like, you need to be in honors classes. I know that. I'm glad y'all finally figured that out.
Wow.
And they moved me to a college ready honors track. But if that teacher hadn't taken the time to notice, like, this child shouldn't be in my class. But it took all those years. So we're looking at 5 years of my education.
Wow.
I'm in regular classes and not being challenged, and I'm a reader, so I'm still reading and learning on my own. But what's going on in the school, my grades are just not there. But so, I say that to say, like, my school wasn't bad, but the community, which became bad, impacted the school. And then my mom moved me to what she thought was a better school.
Yeah.
But because of the racial disparities there, it still did not serve me as a Black student.
Yeah.
And even like, I ran out of high school. I was ready to go. And I was like, we're going to HBCU because I need somebody to value my mind. So, because I remember just in my educational journey because my class in Cobb County at Pebblebrook High School was the largest Black class they had ever had.
Wow.
Prior to that, all the classes had been predominantly white. So, I just hit wall after wall, trying to get into IB programs, trying to do joint enrollment. It was just like, unless you were like the top of the top of the top, they weren't let you in. And I graduated top 5% of my class.
Wow.
And they still was just like, whatever. So just even, I'm not a parent yet. I do hope to be soon when we finish this doctorate degree. Amen.
Amen.
Yes. But, just thinking about my own educational journey coming out of Southwest Atlanta and, my mom thinking she's moving me to a better school, but as a Black student, it's still not serving me. And so, what you said about how the community impacts the school, as well as even the importance of having the quality teachers, because like in Cobb County, okay, your community is now changing, but you're not preparing your teachers for that change.
Yeah.
All from Lindley Middle School to Pebblebrook High School, most of my teachers were predominantly white. We did, I think my sophomore year at Pebblebrook, they finally put a Black principal in the school.
Wow.
Because it was changing. And, we're like, okay, we need somebody that know how to deal with these students.
Exactly.
So, but it having him there made somewhat of a difference, but still, because the county was still predominantly white and still, if anyone from Atlanta knows anything about Cobb County, it can be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Confederate culture. Very Confederate culture. And so, he was still confined in what he could do for us as students, because as a Black man in a predominantly white educational system, he couldn't rock the boat too much if he wanted to keep his job.
Absolutely.
So in your, what are some of the things that you have seen that has worked very well in serving students in low income areas? And even like some of the changes that our school systems here in Georgia have made that have worked that you've seen?
Yeah, so I had the privilege of working with a phenomenal principal, Dr. Jones.
Shout out to the Joneses.
Yes, yes, and soon to be doctor. So, I worked with him, and he really, I would say, walked this very fine line between following the rules and doing what's best for children. And that's what I absolutely respected about him. Like you mentioned about the other principal, having these confines that are given to you. You can't go too far, can't rock the boat too much, you can't make too many people angry. But at some point, if you really desire to do what's best for children and desire to do something different than what's already been done, really serve those students, you're going to have to make some people upset. Yeah. You have to make some people question your decisions. That's how you know that you're probably on the right track. When people start to get uncomfortable, when people are asking, hey, can you really do that? One of the things that our district actually implemented, APS at the time, was this advisory model. So this model where you have a group of children, each adult in the building, it could be 15 to 20 children that you're responsible for. And ideally, that looks like you helping with grades, making sure they're on track to graduate, kind of an extension of a guidance counselor who really can't reach all of the students.
Right.
You provide a safe place, someone that you can talk to. But Dr. Jones, what he did, he took that model that we were given. There were probably some lesson plans that we were supposed to follow that we didn't, because they didn't work for children, didn't work for our children anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But gave us the freedom to really work and work within this model that we were given, but really do what works for our children.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when I first worked there, he asked me, what type of makeup do you want, mixed or do you want all female? And I thought, that's interesting. So I decided to go with all female. And I mean, It was incredible, the amount of issues that we were able to discuss. And it's called a restorative circle now. But basically I said, all right, today we're doing a lemon squeeze. Everybody sit down and let's figure out what's going on. We talked about relationship stuff. We talked about bullying that was happening. We talked about extracurricular activities. We talked about college, things that students should be getting, but oftentimes they lack. We didn't have a college and career coach, so I had to serve in this role, and it was like 30 to 40 minutes per day. But we did things like we had competitions between advisories, so now we really have built this really strong community. Students have a safe place that they can go to talk things out because they deal with all of these things outside of school. You had someone, if you miss more than one day, I'm calling. I'm like, where are you? What's going on? I had one student that was really struggling. Nobody in her family had graduated college. She was a junior, and I could see her motivation waning because she knew she wasn't going to college, even though I knew she was smart enough to go. But she didn't have anybody supporting and pushing and saying, hey, you can do this.
Right.
But because she was in my advisory, now you have someone who notices when you're absent more than one day. They notice when you're having relationship issues. They notice when, something's off. So you have someone that's checking on you and holding you accountable. Someone that really cares about you. So I really have seen that model really, really work. And now I see schools all over the country that have implemented this advisory. Some call it mentorship. There are several different names for it. Some call it crew. But basically the idea is that you have a small group of students who all have an adult in the building that they can trust, that they can go to, someone that knows them personally and can help them to be successful in school. So that's just one thing, this advisory model that I've seen really, really work for students.
Wow, that's powerful. And I like that term, restorative circle. I like that term because I even think about like my godmother. She taught special education, but she was responsible for like job placement for special education students and things of that nature. And I remember she didn't have a restorative circle, but she was very involved in her students' lives. And that's kind of what made it successful. Like she knew their parents. She would pop up at their house. She would take them to different opportunities through the weekend. She got her students involved in the Special Olympics when they did not have that in APS and Fulton County schools. She would, be very involved in helping place them. I remember like going to volunteer with my godmother, and she'd be picking up 2 or 3 students to come with her.
Yes. The job description. She's not getting gas money. She's not getting paid extra.
Nothing.
Work. Absolutely.
Nothing at all. But a lot of her students, became very successful. I know one of the students she talked about, because she was so involved in their lives, she had one student that was blind and he was mute. He couldn't speak. But she was able to work with him and, get him the skills he needed and where he needed to be, and got him hired at SunTrust.
Really?
In the corporate office.
Wow. Yeah. And think about how many people would have just written him off.
Right.
Yeah.
Mute and blind.
Right.
She, got him the resources and technology and everything he needed, to be self-sufficient. And that was her biggest thing, like helping these students to be self-sufficient. Teaching them how to ride the MARTA bus, how to get a MARTA card, like just those basic skills that other people wouldn't necessarily take the time to give them, to be successful. So that having that restorative circle where you have the liberty to do that was very, very powerful for your principal. That's awesome. Awesome. All right. So we got 30 minutes left. Let's talk about Atlanta Smart Academy. Yes. So let's start with your journey into starting this academy and the program that you went through. Because when you told me about this, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I had never heard of anything like that. And I've known a lot of people that wanted to start charter schools. So tell us about the program that you went through and kind of how you got how it helped you get to this journey of launching Atlanta Smart Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, after teaching, I went to work at a charter school, absolutely phenomenal school in DeKalb County. And I moved up into leadership. I was an assistant principal for several years and got to see, the inner workings of how charter schools work. I got involved with the Georgia Charter School Association. And had done several activities, have been to their conferences, did a presentation at a few of their conferences as well. And they started a program called the Incubator. So Georgia Charter School Association Incubator program is a program that helps provide guidance for aspiring school leaders who want to start their own school specifically. So I was fortunate to be able to get accepted into this program in 2018.
Nice.
So I started working on this vision full time. I had all of these different ideas of things that I had experienced in the classroom, experienced as an administrator, saw at other schools. I had the opportunity to go and visit schools around the country to see what other places are doing, because there's some places in the country that have extremely progressive, I would say, charter school movements. They really support charter schools. So they have some schools that are doing incredible things. So I had the opportunity to go and visit those schools. But in the incubator program, you're with a cohort of other school leaders, which has been so beneficial to have other people going through the journey with you. And you attend training sessions on Saturdays. You also have the opportunity to go visit and meet with other school leaders who have, again, gone through this process to really discover what works well and things that you may not think about. You get training on governance. So I had to recruit an entire board for the school. You learn about all of the training requirements. You learn about finances, how are schools funded, how do you make the most of the funds that you're given. You learn about all of the charter school laws. You learn how to recruit students. How do you recruit staff? How do you design an educational program that will really work and serve your community? I had to do a lot of research, even though I had, started teaching in Southwest Atlanta. I'm not originally from Atlanta, so I had to do a lot of research to really understand how the community got to where it is today and how I can best serve them. So it was important for me to have that understanding, be able to connect with this community. We did a ton of groundwork. I mean, we're knocking on doors. We're out at the malls. We're out at events, speaking to families, figuring out, is this something that they want? And if so, what are some of the things that they need so that we can make sure that we incorporate those ideas into our program? So the incubator program is really a 2-year journey. The first year is all about training. It's all about writing your petition to submit to the state and to your local district to get it approved as a charter. So fortunately, we were approved last year by the State Charter School Commission. It was absolutely relief. We were very excited, but after so many months and months and months of work, staying up late, being on our feet, really doing the groundwork, we were very, very excited to be able to bring this vision to life. And then COVID hit. So we're like, okay, another little monkey wrench in our plans.
Right.
So, really had to go and take some time to reflect, take some time to figure out, okay, what's happening now? We're at a critical point, shifting in education. How can we ensure that we're still able to provide the high quality education that we set out to provide? So we're now opening fall 2021, a little delay, but we're absolutely excited to get back started. Enrollment will be opening soon. So we're excited to be coming back stronger.
Absolutely. So tell us about Atlanta Smart Academy and just even, based on the research you did in the community, why you chose Atlanta Smart Academy and why you chose the focus of the school that you did.
Yeah, so our mission is to use science, math, and the arts to build innovative solutionists. Solutionists are students that can take the knowledge that they have gained from all of their different coursework and apply it to solving real life problems. What I noticed throughout my time in education is that students were not engaged. The teacher was standing in front of the classroom, spewing out information, and some of the students got it, sometimes they didn't. and they were just regurgitating that information back to you. But then, the next year we just start this cycle all over again. They're not retaining the information. Sometimes they're dropping out of school. I taught high school, so that was a very real reality because school wasn't really getting them engaged in learning. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't interesting. They couldn't see how it was relevant to them. So we are using project-based learning, which challenges students and teachers because it's a completely different way of teaching. Instead of the teacher being a lecturer standing in the front of the classroom giving out information, they're really more of a facilitator of learning. So our teachers get together every semester. They design these cross-curricular projects that address an issue or they address some kind of challenge. For example, it could be addressing poverty, understanding the underlying causes of poverty in my community. Now students have voice. Now students have a choice about what exactly they're going to study to help them come to some kind of conclusion. They're also going to use a variety of different tools. So they're not just going to use math or just going to use English. They're going to have to use everything that they're learning in all of their classes in order to address this issue. They're also going to choose the way that they deliver and show what they learn. So instead of a teacher just saying, okay, at the end of this unit, we'll have a 50 question test. And then after that, we move on. No, a student may decide, hey, I'm going to put together a multimedia presentation to show what I've learned. Or, hey, we may choreograph a dance piece that helps to express how poverty impacts our community. So students will have project-based learning that challenges them to really think critically about issues that are important to them and to their community. They'll also have access to the arts. I was so appalled by the lack of access to arts. I'm like, this is the hip hop mecca of the South. And we have all of this talent here. We have all of this history of singers and producers and actors that have come through Atlanta that still live in Atlanta. And we don't have a proper place to train up the next generation. We also, in my experience, K through 12, I went to performing arts schools. I saw the difference between people that had access to the arts and those that didn't. It wasn't that these students were inherently smarter. Well, no, we had more engagement in our own education. We were more focused because we had to be in order to be successful in these programs. We were able to be creative. I absolutely loved going to dance class. Some days I woke up and I said, I'm not really feeling this, but I got to get to dance class. So let's get it done. And we were there for hours. We would get there, I think 7:15, 7:30, and we didn't leave till 4:30. And then sometimes you would have something extra and you would stay even longer than that. So thinking about all of those things and how it just makes you enjoy school and enjoy learning more. You also gain confidence in your own ability that, hey, if I can practice and master this dance piece, I can do the same thing in my math class. I learned perseverance. I learned that if I work really hard, if I get help, if I allow someone to critique me, I can get better and I develop into a stronger person overall. So access to the arts is something that's lacking in our community. Yes. So we wanted to make sure that our students have the ability to access arts, visual art, dance, theater, as well as music. So all of our students will get to choose a major. For example, if you want to major in dance, then you spend your 3 or 4 years at our school majoring in dance. So you really have a lot of time to hone your craft. You get outside experiences, outside choreographers coming in to really, really develop that gift and talent inside of each student.
That's awesome. And, now that you mentioned that, I think about my own experience in Southwest Atlanta. Like, we didn't necessarily have that I can remember, like, arts programs at our school. We did have a band. We did have that. But other than that, the arts that I was involved in, it was because my teacher decided. Like, my kindergarten teacher taught us African dance and taught us drumming. I had a second grade teacher that taught us art, and she started an art club at Continental College that we did. But it wasn't necessarily something that was a part of the school, but it was just something that our teachers decided to do. But that fuel, and then too, a lot of because my godmother was an educator, she involved me in things outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that school, that arts, and I did eventually go. Pebblebrook is a performing arts high school, so I majored in voice there. So I can remember, yeah, it definitely made an impact on my learning. I think about my own nephew. My oldest nephew is very creative, and you know, he's a boy. So for the first few years of his life, you know, trying to get him in sports, and he's just not an athlete. That is just not his thing. And thankfully, because I went to performing arts school, interacting with him, I was able to tell, like, oh, this is a creative child.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, he really struggled with his self-esteem and things like that. And he was younger. And I was telling my sister, like, he's creative. You got to put him in arts. He's not going to thrive until he gets in art.
Mm-hmm.
And she found an external arts program to put him in that was led by a Morehouse alum. Shout out to Morehouse.
Right, shout out.
So it was led by a Morehouse alum. I mean, and it just changed the total trajectory of my nephew, his performance, his school, his confidence, everything. And now he's in college studying music.
Wow.
And his confidence, especially, he's at an HBCU studying music.
Lord.
His confidence had just went through the roof. You know, he's like, oh, y'all ain't tell me I had all these gifts. And I'm like, okay, you just in a hole. You feeling yourself for real now. Okay. But, you know, just to see like how his confidence has skyrocketed, how he's finding his voice and coming to himself because of this arts community that he's now a part of.
Yeah.
And especially for many of our children are just so creative, and being able to fuel that and couple that with their learning. I like the parallel that you made. Like, okay, if I can perfect this dance, because we know our children, honey, especially with TikTok now, they're sitting in a mirror all day long perfecting their dance. I mean, you know, I did dance competitions as a kid. That was just something we did, you know, on the playground practicing songs. But if you can do that, you can master math, you can master science, you can master any other subject the same way you would master a dance or master a song. So that's powerful. Very powerful. Awesome. And so what made you choose, out of all the learning methodologies out there, why project-based learning?
Yeah.
What did you see that for our students that was the most effective method to use?
Yeah. I really based on experience. I remember in my first year of teaching, I designed this project and at the time I didn't know anything about project-based learning, but I really wanted my students to understand why. Again, I taught chemistry, so they're like, why do I need to know this? I'm not going to be a chemist or whatever. So it was important for them to understand, why are you learning? Why are we learning this? So I remember designing this project where there was basically a chemical spill. And the students were broken up into teams, and they basically had to design a way to clean up this spill. They had to identify what materials they used, what methodology they were going to use to separate. So this whole lesson was on different types of mixtures and how you can separate them. Normally you just teach it, you have a PowerPoint, they memorize the different ways that you separate, test them, and then you move on. But they had to design a way to clean up this chemical spill. They had to understand how much the project was going to cost, and then they had to present how they were going to, handle this chemical spill. And it was like a contamination of the waterway or something. I went all out. I had written a letter and all of this stuff.
Oh wow!
To read. And years later, I still remember this project, and the students, I said it was a competition. I don't remember what the prize was, maybe lunch or something. And they went all out. Like they were arguing with each other, like with their group. They were really invested in, really solving this problem and being the, most successful. And I thought about how so often we don't give students context. Sometimes as teachers, we don't know. I don't know, how you can use this in real life. How does this relate? It also, I forced my students, they had to each be assigned a role in the group. So one person may have been someone who tested water quality. Now you're helping students to understand, what can you do with chemistry after
the jobs? Yeah,
absolutely. These are jobs that, hey, if you enjoy science, this is something that you may see yourself doing later. From that, and I did so many other projects after that. Like we made ice cream. And of course, there's all this learning that's embedded in it. But again, I found that students really wanted to understand, why are we learning this? And then understand, how does this apply to my life outside of here? I had students that had so much going on outside of school. Again, we're talking about students that are 16, 17, 18, sometimes 19 years old. Some of them have children outside of school that they have to deal with. Some of them are coming from homes where there's abuse, where there's neglect. Some of them have parents that are incarcerated or died. So you have students that have all of this stuff going on outside of school. So you want to make sure that the environment is inviting, it's engaging, and then they can see themselves doing something with it in the future. Otherwise, it's just a waste of 8 hours every day. They're just drudging through it. So giving them something really to be motivated about and look forward to is an important part of project-based learning.
Wow, that's powerful. And I didn't know that's what it was called, but that's even how I teach entrepreneurship. And I remember I did this 3-day camp in Augusta, Georgia, rural inner city, like it was the downtown hood area of Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell, like, you know, these kids came to summer camp and they was just there because their parents wanted them to be there.
Right.
So they didn't want to be there. You know, they was just like, Lord, here we go, summer camp, whatever. Just got to get through this. But, you know, I always start with, well, what are you passionate about? What in your community would you like to see change? And then showing them how they could build a business around that, how they can make money from that, putting them in teams. And what we did, they had to actually come up with a almost like a trade table, like a display table. And the final day, we had a fair where we invited the business community to come and view the business that these students had created. And they were so excited, you know, to show these high profile business people what they had accomplished. And a lot of them were we did this in 3 days.
Wow.
And you're talking like middle school kids who don't know anything about business, money, math, nothing. And they were ready. Like they had their pitch down. They understood their numbers, and same thing, putting them in teams, making them come up with roles. And it was just powerful to watch, just absolutely powerful to watch. So
wow, you're project-based learning.
Clearly, and I didn't even know. But that's definitely how I teach entrepreneur, and that's what I've seen be more effective. Like even at the college level, like when you not only just say come up with a business idea, but first say look at your community first, because it's about, you know, we teach business. If you build a business that's not connected to a need or a problem that you're solving, you're not going to have a business. You're not going to make any money. So let's first identify the problem that you're solving and create a business around that. And I've seen the difference in teaching entrepreneurship that way, as opposed to just saying, okay, come up with a business plan, do your financials, you know, and then pitch a business. They don't care.
Absolutely. You know, thing that they got to do, something else on the to-do list. Right.
Exactly. Awesome. So, man, so we're in COVID. We got 10 minutes. And you are also a parent. so help us out. Help the parents out. What in this new environment of learning, especially with so many children being at home with parents that are working, what are some tips you can give parents to survive in this learning environment?
Yes. I think the first thing is providing some sense of normalcy. Providing that may look like a schedule. You know, each school is different in terms of how they run their online program. Some of it is all live instruction, some is a mixture of both, and some is all independent. But it's important to provide structure for your children. They need to know, hey, I still have a bedtime. Hey, you know, just like we were doing if we were going into the building, I still have a time where I need to wake up, you know, and there's something that I need to do every single day. That may look like writing out a schedule. So, hey, maybe Mondays and Tuesdays, this is what you start with. Wednesdays, this is what you do. But having a schedule, posting it somewhere where everybody in the house, including your children, can see it and they can reference. So, hey, this is the day and this is what I should be doing at this time. And again, each family is going to be different. So make sure you tailor it to what your students should be doing, how their school and learning is set up, as well as your family needs. You know, what do you have going on at home to provide this structure that students really, really desire? I think too, don't be afraid to sit in on classes. Like this is your opportunity to sit in, hear what's going on, get to know the teacher, get to know what the expectations are, and even understand where your children are coming from. I sat in on one class, and my child's teachers or school in general is just doing a good job overall communicating and providing, what students need. But I sat there one day, we're all at the dining room table. She has her area. And that's another tip. Make sure that there's a designated space for school, to happen, where they have just what they need and no other distractions, phones and TVs and dolls and toys and all this stuff. Make sure they have what they need in that space. But I sat there and I began to understand why she's exhausted. I began to understand why she got distracted, because I had to sit there and experience it with her. So it helped me to be more compassionate. It also helped me to really understand what the expectations are for virtual learning and how it's impacting her. So now I can say, okay, well, she needs a break. After every class, let's get up, go dance, go sing, go use the bathroom, get a snack, go outside even, and then come back. Also, so, don't be afraid. This is your chance, parents, to sit in on those classes to really understand what they're experiencing and what's expected of them. And I would say, keep the learning going. I think there's so much learning that can happen outside of just a teacher's instruction. For example, I just bought this 1,000-piece puzzle for my daughter and I to put together. We probably should have started at like 100 pieces. But we're learning and having fun and accomplishing something outside of what's happening, at the day. We're cooking. She made oatmeal this morning with some berries inside of it. There's so much learning. There's so much science. There's so much math in cooking. So do those things. Allow this to be an opportunity for you to experience learning outside of that. We also purchased a world map. And we marked off all of the places that we traveled. We talked about, hey, why haven't we been to the Middle East? Why haven't we been nowhere in Asia? And we talked about those things. We were able to connect that to what she's learning in the classroom, all of the continents. And hey, how come, Antarctica? Well, why haven't we been to Antarctica? And why are we probably not going?
Right.
Climate. So there's so much learning that can happen outside of, what's happening during the school day. And this is a great time to really build relationships with your children, spend quality time with them doing other things. We also bought some art supplies. They're very cheap. Got them from like a TJ Maxx or Ross or something. And we started painting, watching video. Everything that you need in life is on YouTube. So look it up.
YouTube University. Absolutely.
Exactly. And so we're finding ways to connect, spend time together, and continue learning in ways that are fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What are some, like we talked about, the mentorship you had. We talked about restorative circles. We've talked about what parents can do from a advocacy standpoint and really advocating for our children in the school system, maybe even at a policy level. What are some things that the average person can do to make sure that our schools are better for our children?
Yeah. Right now, the push is voting. I mean, we have to get out and vote. Again, you can just do a simple Google search to find out, hey, what are the upcoming elections in Georgia? Who's running? What are these offices? Find out what they stand for so that we can make educated decisions when we vote. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do that. So make sure that we're voting. There are a lot of positions that are open. I feel like I've been to the polls every month for the last few months. Like, why do I keep coming back? I was just here.
All these runoffs. Yes.
Exactly. Runoffs, and then people passing away. They got to fill these positions. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, but don't get discouraged. Stay involved, stay engaged. Do quick research to find out what people stand for and make sure you vote. We're putting people into positions that are making decisions that impact things like how schools are funded. They impact things like our criminal justice system, which impacts our children and our community, at just extremely, high levels. So make sure that we're voting. Also ask for what you want. I think the difference in that I've seen a lot in education between more affluent communities is that they understand their power. They understand that if we come together and we say this is what we need done out of our schools, they can shift and they can make things happen. So we have to understand that the power is in our hands. If we want quality schools, we got to get together with other parents so that our voice is now amplified, and we have to ask for what we want. If you're at a school and you feel like virtual learning, they're not doing what they're supposed to do, make your voice known. And it doesn't have to be in a way that's confrontational, but hey, I'm a parent. I noticed that this is something that's happening. Here's some suggestions, or here's what we need. If your school hasn't given out, if you still don't have technology, make some noise. Get together with other parents and make some noise until they respond. If you need books, I know a lot of libraries are closed. There are books sitting on the shelf, getting dusty at your child's school. If they need some learning material, hit up the teachers, hit up whoever, the counselor, principal, and say, hey, we need some books. Can we come and pick up some books from the school so that my child can read? So don't be afraid to ask for what it is that you want and what it is that you need. If you need more information, if you need more assistance from the school, ask. That's what they're there to provide. So don't be afraid to speak up and ask for what you need.
That's very good. Thank you. So yes, it is important to vote. And I know for me, like I always look up a candidate's voting record, you know, what their views are on education, because that is important, especially being in higher ed, you know, these policies that impact our HBCUs. So, you know, that those things are, as you said, is easy to find online. You know, if you Google the person's name, you can Google their name and their platform, and it'll come up a voting record, and those things will come up. It's free, you know, just on Google with a search. So, and it does, like you said, it doesn't take long, just a few minutes. So powerful. All right. So we know you are doing some consulting as well in this virtual world. So tell people how they can get in contact with you, what you're offering. I'm gonna put your website up here so people would know where to go. But tell them how they can find you, get in contact with you, and take advantage of the services that you're offering.
Yeah, so I'm really here for parents. And I know everyone has a different situation. I'm really here to help support parents and students to really thrive during this time of virtual learning and just educational uncertainty overall. So if you need assistance helping to plan out your day, if you need assistance getting organized, if you need assistance understanding what your child should know at each grade level and how you can support them as a parent, please feel free to reach out. patricemeadows.com. If you look under services, I offer private tutoring. So if you already know your child needs assistance in math or reading or whatever it is, you can sign up for private tutoring. I also do consultations with parents to help sit down with you, understand what your needs are, and help you design a school learning program that works for your child and your family. So if you need any assistance, feel free to reach out. I would love to support you and connect with you and assist you in whatever your educational needs are. I also most recently had a consultation and I'm working with a family. They are getting ready for college. I love that space. I love helping juniors and seniors and even earlier get started, looking for scholarships, identifying colleges that they can apply to, scheduling virtual tours and applying to make sure that they're able to get to college. So if you need assistance, please feel free to reach out.
Yes, absolutely. Any final words on education or anything that we've left out that you're like, I got to get this out and leave this with the people? I encourage everyone to please take advantage of her services. Patrice is just good at what she does. I have seen the fruit of the children that she's worked with, even other educators that she's mentored, and how they've been able to be successful. So any final words you want to leave with the people?
Yeah, just education is a tool that is at our disposal, is often underused in our community. So use education to get wherever it is that you desire to be in your career and in your life. Whether you're young or old, all of us can be successful with the right coaching, right mentorship, right assistance in education. So use education as your tool, and it can take you anywhere you want to go.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Patrice, for joining the community of reconcilers. This has been great. You have shared so much with us and given our parents some really great tools to make this a successful year, even in the midst of a pandemic. So thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you taking the time with having your own child that you need to educate.
Yes.
so, so thank you so much. And we encourage you all to please visit her website, patricemeadows.com, and then the school, atlantasmartacademy.org.org. Thank you again. You all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.